This morning we're off to see some friends, but they live quite a long way away, in the wilds of Norfolk, where they only just have electricity and there's virtually no fast chargers. This seems like the perfect opportunity to talk about how to drive a Tesla efficiently, or in fact any electric car. I might even get to do some drone flying. Before I do anything though, I've got to get some coffee. All ready to go.
Nice to get out of the house. I haven't been out of the house for ages.
This is the closest decent speed charger to where we're going. That's why I never like to rely on any chargers except superchargers. Get the chocolate stove? Fantastic.
Always like to charge when I can.
Right. The trick with driving efficiently in an electric car is to remember there are 3 ways to slow down, other than having a crash of course, and those are: you can put your foot on the brake. This is the absolute worst way from an efficiency point of view, because you just burn up kinetic energy and turn it into heat on the brake discs. The second way to slow down is to use the regen. That's not as bad as braking, but it's still not very good. You lose about 30% due to the inefficiencies. And the best way to slow down, by miles, is to coast. In my experience, how quickly you accelerate really has only a very small effect. Now that might not be the case for something like a P90D with ludicrous mode, but certainly in my car, an 85 rear wheel drive, as far as I can tell, how fast you accelerate is almost irrelevant. What matters is how you slow down. Another thing to remember is that a steady speed and a slow speed tends to be far more efficient. Now, one advantage that a car like the Tesla Model S has over something like a Nissan Leaf is, or an i3 for that matter, is that because it is significantly more aerodynamic than either of those cars, as it speeds up, that aerodynamic advantage plays a larger and larger part. That's why my Tesla can actually drive at 65, 70 on the motorway more efficiently than my Nissan Leaf used to be able to. The only other thing to note is there are chargers almost all over the UK, so the reality is, for somebody who wants to drive an electric car and not worry about charging, that is actually not any kind of a problem 90% of the time, 95% of the time. Just so happens we're going into Norfolk, which is kind of like the Sahara Desert of charging points. When it is cold outside, the battery takes quite a lot of heating to get up to a good efficient temperature, and so consequently when you first get in the car in winter time, it'll show you some astronomical amounts of power use, but that's basically it just trying to heat the battery up. And if you put the climate control on using the app before you leave the house whilst it's plugged in, then that will make that a lot better. Once the car has warmed up, the excess heat from the battery and the electric motor will help to heat the cabin, so you won't actually lose much range. I find in winter time on a long trip, I'm maybe getting 5 to 10% less. Worth noting that in the UK, our idea of a cold winter is -2 outside, whereas, you know, some places in Canada, their idea is -35. it is gonna use a little bit of extra power keeping the cabin warm in minus 35 degrees Celsius. In terms of power use of accessories in the car, you can plug your phone into the car and charge that. It's going to make no difference. I mean, if you drove for 3 hours, it'll make like 10 feet of range difference. You push the car, the difference. Even if you've got the upgraded sound in this car, it's a 500 watt system. It makes 3 miles of range difference. And that's if you have it on absolute full blast for 2 hours. That's about it. Can't think of any more useful little efficiency tips. Oh yes, try not to get lost. That always helps. So there you go. Those are my tips for driving efficiently in a Tesla, or in fact any electric vehicle. $250 watt-hours per mile. That's almost the same efficiency I used to get with my Nissan Leaf. Good job, Tesla. Right, I think it's probably time to head home. We're going to have to drive quite efficiently, otherwise I'm going to arrive back with a battery below 20%. And I try and avoid that where I can. There we go, 170 miles, 254 watt-hours per mile. See, I told you these efficiency tips worked. I would be able to do 274 miles if I ran it from 100% to 0. Nice. I hope you've all enjoyed today's vlog. If you have, subscribe if you haven't already, and give it a thumbs up. And feel free to leave a comment in the section below. And I'll see you tomorrow for the next installment of my daily vlog. Bye. That's years of Nissan Leaf driving, that is. You have to be efficient with a Nissan Leaf, but that doesn't mean it's any less fun.